Thank you. Hello, world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a good night for the second Mozhan Training class. Today, we are going to dive deeper into the map, and we basically want to share with you, this is going to be a map of your consciousness. So you get a structure for you to build for yourself to get a better orientation in knowledge and life experience. So for the start, I would like to change the perspective. So we can basically start with reflecting our social daily life. And we try to imagine now all the people that are close to us. We put them in the eye of the mind as a tree. So I want you to imagine your surrounding, your people that are close to you, that they are growing and they are standing at the place. Where would you put them? How would they look like? And how would you react, or if necessary, judge how a plant or a tree? Close your eyes for a second, for a minute maybe, and try to imagine all the people, also animals, everything that is dear and holds to you, turns into a plant or a tree. So there are good people and bad people, of course. So you will have challenging situations, maybe less than before, since now everyone is a tree. Imagine yourself becoming a tree. Together we are a forest. And we are all connected through the wind that blows through us, through the soil, the ground. Our roots are interconnecting. We have the mushroom, we call it empire today, the mushroom empire. So everything that is not connected yet is getting connected through the mushroom. And it almost feels like we're having an internet back where we can exchange us with the environment and the environment with us. Then we can hear some thunder in the air. The wind is getting stronger. The whole forest is going through a storm. Rain is falling on our heads, on all our body parts, actually leaves, branches. And as we could have been thirsty, we basically can now drink from what has fallen from the top to the ground. The raindrops get soaked in minerals, and they dig deep into the earth before they get catched or collected or embraced, invited into a root system that brings the water in so many ways into a whole new perspective as it travels through the tree into the top, the crown of the tree. It has been rainy for days now. Everything is totally wet. And now the clouds are gone and the sun is coming back. After a couple of hours, what was almost cold before turns into heat now. So everything that is water in the outer rim, in the leaves, is starting to almost cooking, evaporating. So the travel of the water still goes further, higher up into the air. And in the clouds, somewhere else, we are gathering again with ourselves, reflections, different experiences. We group up, we become one cloud. And when there are too many of us, we basically let each other go again, so we can fall down to earth and repeat the cycle. I want you to pick a scenario where you are basically with your consciousness amongst the roots in the soil of our Mother Earth, or if you are a droplet in the cloud that is basically gathering up with itself, or if you are already a droplet in the ocean. There are many cycles and transformations that in one way or another we know as thermodynamics regarding of the states or the stances, how I'd like to call them. So the kind of shape or behavior of water. So basically what you can experience as the water element. And so we try to imagine that our perception can be also in these, or can be alike these thermodynamic states. So we can be a fragment, a gaseous particle, or a collection in a droplet, or as a collection, as an ocean of many droplets. We can rise and we can fall. We basically rise through letting go, and we fall through collecting or through gathering. There are many ways to see or to perceive the magnetical and the gravitational playing forces within our lives. And so if there is the case that someone got lost or we struggle with a situation in society, there is a need in many ways to basically get a hold on yourself. But wait, you can't hold yourself because you basically are not only matter. And yet to reflect yourself and to get back into what you already gathered as information and experience, to get a new horizon, a new perspective. This is what we start here with. We were talking about the eagle last week. So if you imagine the eagle here in this picture flying above the surface, somewhere to the sky, he can observe what we cannot if we are in the midst of the jungle or somewhere in the ocean. We are bound to the ground. So how do we switch those perspectives in challenging situations in our lives to basically get further or to let go of something that we don't or that doesn't serve us best anymore? On this map, basically, we have a polarity of high on the right and low on the left. So the deeper we go into the ocean, the more we are basically in the losing scenario. And the higher up we go, the more we basically get an overview of what's going on. So now this is just a slice of a cake, this map here. And it's just an invitation for you to basically find your own map or make your own map of yourself. And this is a proposal how you can basically start with building your own world. Your own world is not something physical. It's a place where you basically create in yourself, where you can retreat to. And some of us might be familiar with some of these places when we were very little. I can remember well this situation that when I usually got to bed, there was like a spiral shell, like a clam shell or like a snail's shell. So basically I could wind up myself into this, into the spiral. And the further in I went, which is literally just centimeters away from one end to the other, I felt more home. So whatever was bothering me, basically I could go back and feel peace and rest with my emotional state. And so this retreat or this cave or this home, also as the snail has it on the back, this got fractured and disappeared at a certain moment when we basically don't go there anymore. So when we get attached, either through thinking, through feeling, or through basically just being attached too much to the matter state. So therefore we let people judge ourselves and we give up our potential deliberately. So it's not like a must-have situation, but we do it because as we don't go back home anymore, we basically lose track of our position. So where we came from and where we might go to. For those who are experienced in the dream state, those people know that you can basically be in connection with anything that you basically wish or dream of. And the more clear your intent and the more honest you can be, the more you can bring that dream into reality. So if this is not something for you to basically face your fears because you have gone through many difficult situations in life already, maybe this is just another point of view to give you another view, an angle, a view angle that bring you some more light in the picture so that you can create the bigger picture of your own. It's not about me, anyone telling you what to do, but basically these are tools that we would like to share, and the responsibility and the potential lies just up to you and you only. So when we get comfortable in the situation that we are capable of sharing much more than the matter state basically makes us believe so, there's a way of interchanging literally experience like you could imagine in a football match. So So you have a stadium with a crowd around the field. And so everyone watching the game from there could basically look it a bit different. I mean, to the game, everything look just slightly different. So the totality of view would be then the whole crowd together, maybe 60,000 people at once. And then you have just one team of, or two teams of 22 people running after just one ball. So these perceptions, they don't end with the human perception. This is very crucial and important to understand that as long as you think you need to remain in just in the human eyes, you will not see through the eyes of the animal. So how would it be then for you to look through someone that you approach in life? The easier you can basically shift your emotion, or at least your perception, to basically let go of what is just obvious, and you try to let go of what blocks you, what censors you of the whole reality. That will open many doors, and through those doors of perception, this is the map 4, and this is the portal that we would like to invite you to go through. So whatever machine or situation we will come across in the near future that might be achieved through technology, let's get some practice, let's get some comfort in basically traveling from dimension to another. And what we basically can learn through these practices with our emotional state. And if this game situation helps you to discover and to basically work more in alignment with your everyday emotions, this is something that we can change the world to a better place. Okay, so if there is anyone who actually would like to just drop into the map and had an experience of with an animal, we will basically can integrate just that and start from there. Otherwise, we will go to the left side here, and I will just switch the video to start the today's lesson on the map. Be right there. So now you can see on the left side this almost like a spiraling down situation in blue. So this is the ocean, or is the water side of the map, and basically that is how we start the game today. And as I teased you last week already, so we have a very special entry to the game, and to spice it up a little bit, we face also now this situation in other environment, so we can basically learn a bit more in depth. So we are getting planked into the map. So basically it's not really voluntarily. So far as we were driving on the ship, sailing the the big wide oceans, that in that situation everything was safe and there was nothing basically unusual happening. So everything was also shared with the crew, and we were part of a bigger picture, and we were not questioning anything. Now I ask you, because you are part of the game and you bring your past or your experience, you bring your essence into the game. And now I ask you, what would you face when I say the words, what makes you guilty, or what did you do wrong in your life? So you basically try to bring some light in that is still there, because now is the moment to face it. And if you're not getting planked into the water into the deep ocean, imagine just this, that you would be thrown out of a spaceship. So your guilt emotion, it does not need to be from the past, it can be from the imaginary future. But what does it mean if you feel guilty? Do you deserve punishment for that you think you feel guilty in the right way? And if you don't feel guilty at all, it is still the situation that you are being planked. So below you, there is just water and water only. There is no land in sight. And you are not alone. There are some other people getting planked too. But what does it mean if that would happen in space? Do you remember all the movies that showed you what could happen if you get sucked out into space out of a spaceship? At least in this situation, when we think about those science fiction movies, we get confronted with our fears of losing our body, our mind, or just what it means to be connected to what we so-called life as before. So come with me. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to hurt you, but just try to come with me. And now we stand on a wooden plank, and below us is just the deep space. Close your eyes and see there is nothing but stars everywhere, but very close to you is just the nothing. You can't measure how far it goes down, and you can't measure how far it goes up. It seems to be like infinite. If we have some oxygen remaining in our suit or whatever we basically still have to remain alive, we actually know that this is going to last a couple of minutes, maybe, or hours, but the space is too vast to basically land somewhere and not being burned in the atmosphere. So the only chance we had was that ship. It's not nostalgia now that comes up, but it's maybe a resentment, an anger to yourself. What did you do to make you be now in this situation just moments before you change from safety to total chaos? Nowhere to hold, but just be part of the big ocean. Do you know what you are doing? Do you deserve it? And where is joy in that moment? How could you imagine now to look forward to this jump? Whatever situation you basically put into your mind makes you face some highs or lows of your life sooner or later. And there are some, as I experience it myself, there are some very hard to describe situations when I stand on a very tall tower, for example, or on a mountain, and it goes very, very straight down, maybe 50 to 100 meters. For me, it's like maybe 10 meters already is enough to get that special feeling in the stomach. So to be afraid of heights, what does it mean? Can you still keep it up, even you know that you would float in the moment you basically would leave the spaceship? So there's no falling down, you're just going. And as fast as you push yourself, or as hard as you push yourself, you will just be going into this direction wherever it would go. How would you steer? Do you still believe that the human body would be the best way of traveling yet? How can we basically compensate the missing atmosphere, the food and the water, everything that is missing, our people? So everything that we have to let go in that scenario here, jumping into the water, sounds very dramatic. And yet, if I can make you see that there is always a good and a bad side in almost everything, as long as we remain in the perspective of duality. So what if you survive your worst fears? Is there a hope for you? Is there enough reason for you to feel hopeful? Who would help you? Is there anyone to help you still remaining somewhere? Depending on the time of your scenario, if you draw this in the 1200s, somewhere maybe where this ship is coming from, most likely there would be nobody. Today, you could have the lucky situation to meet one of these big transport ships, and in a lucky situation, they might see you, and so you get safe back home. But wait, you just got dismissed from the ship, and you have a sentence of death because of your doings. So to be together in space is not a big thing, but to be alone is the worst thing. Would you see the sense that it would make to basically fuse the sense and the no sense together, to basically have both at your disposal when you travel through space? And would it be senseful, or how would it be sensitive if you get saved, or you would at least have an experience in life when you are in water and you have one last meeting? One meeting that rarely anyone can have. We will just come to this in a second, because I told you there on the map, we are never alone. So as I'm not judging you, or I'm not forcing you to jump. This jump into the water is the entry to the game today, as you haven't dreamt of it, of an animal, and you were basically parachuting in. So for today, the lesson is basically face that situation where you have to jump into the unknown. And what does it mean? Do you really know today, through all the teachings of Mr. Kesh, do you know what you are? Have you seen how water is put together? How different matter states, ganses are made? And have you seen how the planet gets created in the introduction video? So basically it comes from the environment, and the environment is the field. So the more dear we hold the field to ourselves, for the field, why should we be afraid of diving into a big ocean? Please remember, this is a game in a mind, if you will, to basically get in touch with your emotions. So, and if we jump into the water and you don't come up with any beautiful solution, because I'm not going to tell you the solution, I'm just going to give you some ways of perspectives to enjoy the moment when you are in the water, in those moments where you sink down, and the moments that we don't spoil right now, but we will have a guest today that shares some information about the deep depth of the ocean. And so you will basically make it to the next day, to next Monday, if we make the same game. And for those who are basically familiar with the terms of gaming, usually dying is part of it. And it's very often that you die, but you just come back all the time. So to die, you might die into the deep, dark ocean. And tomorrow you will be reborn, no matter what, because there is also a good and a bad side to anything. I would like to go and change now the perspective. So you are still sitting or standing on that plank, on that wooden plank, on the back of the ship. And I imagine that there might be many, many thoughts coming your way. And so let's get a bit practical and back to real life. Just for a second. This is an abstract or an easy painting of how I solve the issue with the thinking. So in case you are standing like 10 meters up the water and you're facing your final minutes or moments, whatever stressful situation you are, if you are in space and you feel lonely or you feel hungry or whatever, the situation of the challenge in a mental way, we can face up right here. For the game, we need a player, and that player basically is you. It is me, it's everyone. And I would like you to get familiar to that safe place of the game, because, you know, we can just win or lose the game, but the game is there to play. Some of you might be very familiar with losing, and therefore it would not be that much of a challenge if you just, you know, lose your life in the big ocean. For those who don't really like to lose, and the game, whatever game it is, shows that very intensely, that might be a more challenging situation. So when we have all those thoughts of guilt, of judgment, other people, you, me, them, all together, and this is coming to your head, how can we deal with it? So to basically understand the situation, the thinking is not a problem. It is just the way how it works is not so beneficial to you at that moment. So we don't need to eliminate or kill or, you know, turn off the thinking. We just need to take another look at it. What you see here in the first, in the very middle is the player. So the player also, in the way of term of a game, has many different perspectives. I will just introduce you in words, but you can go and investigate into this kind of matter more if you like. So the first perspective is called the ego perspective. This is what we basically have in the moment when we look through our eyes, and everything that happens, we take as a reason to react to. Everything that happens, we take in some way or another, we take it emotionally. So we feed ourselves emotionally from the situation, or we basically, you know, let go of energy in the other way around. So this receiving and giving in terms of thinking is here in, do you see, I hope you can see my mouse. Let's see if I can draw here a bit. No. So these orange parts here these are basically two mountains. And the orange part is a train that comes just in front of you and passing you by. So now try to follow me to watch just a wagon of a train or a complete train passing you by. What do we see? Usually when a train is passing, we are looking to every single window and we would like to see who is in there. We might just pick up something or someone, or, you know, just for curiosity reason. There is not much else to do with the train, but basically that is what we focus on. So these all different personnel, people in that train are all those constructed thoughts that basically are coming your way and hindering you to basically pass this train way. Your aim is basically from the position here of the player to pass the train, or basically not get hurt by the train, and to go through the woods and go down to the lake and have a rest, or just, you know, enjoy the time, the day with the sun and so on. That place where you feel comfortable with, where you feel home. I was mentioning this spiral or this home place where you can go. So this is just an abstract of how you could look at it. And we see in the background, there is also civilization. There is like a mountain with, you know, these kind of, I don't know how to call it, those things that transport the people up to the mountain. And we have an airport. And so you can see that the whole train is going in a circle. So this cycle, it is repeating itself. So now we know that if we turn it, or if the spiral goes, it's always kind of tricky question. So which is left and which is right? But the giving goes the spiral to the left and the receiving is going to the right. So imagine now that if the thought or this train of thought is coming your way, that is not one of your inventions. It's not something that you created. Basically, it's filled with whatever advertising, bad stories, news, whatever, challenging mental situations. It is packed in that train. So if it comes from the gravitational, you basically get remembered that you are in that state where you have to receive. If you are in the state where you can only give, then basically this train will be from you here created, and you will pack it with some good intentions and you will send it to this circle. No matter what, in the position of the player, this is just an example how you could look like. You can also be another entity. So how you basically go back to your center, or how you can basically go to your inner home, is just depending of how serious you have taking the situation. If you believe that the train is as long as the whole track is, there will be no way of passing, because it will always be running, and so you always will be driven over, so there's no way to basically go. So now if we go a bit more into the creative state, we imagine ourselves to be, you know, they have all those superheroes. Pick one. And so now what do you do when you see the train? Either you kick the train in the direction it came from back, or you just jump over it. You just run as fast as you can so you never hit the train, or the train never hits you. It's up to you. But before we can do that, we just need to see that there are also good thoughts. So if you enjoy pleasure or peace, calmness, health, these are states or stances of your entity that make you feel good. So if you can basically become aware of the situation that this train is a tool for you to basically manifest yourself, the whole perspective changes. So if you have too many thoughts in too short time, maybe it's for you to basically just give the train a rest. This whole situation is a picture as a map of your brain or of your mind. And if you imagine this green spot here as the third eye or your forehead, this is what you basically look at you if you look into the mirror. Now you draw this situation by yourself. It can be somewhere in space. It can be a tree in the woods. It can be here as a lake or at the beach. But we are going to basically build some sort of map together. And I showed you now a second example how you basically can look at yourself. If you are too far out of your state of, where basically you feel at home, then you might be already have passed the thinking. So this situation is a more real life situation tool. In the moment we basically are sitting or standing at the edge of a ship, it's much more difficult to get some gain or some joy by knowing this train picture. but there's a little point or little pink here color, and it is also here reflected in the sky. And so you remember the short story in the beginning when we basically went through the cycle with the tree, then as water. So basically you are still here as water, and everything that is going around is also water, and that what you seek is also you. So depending on how you look at what you see or how you limit yourself, through the application, basically you can just discover your state of being. This pink color here symbolizes the soul. So if we have something like a drop and that drop contains a soul, the soul is free to travel wherever you would like to go. And therefore it is not part anymore in this perspective up here of the whole brain situation. So now maybe you can see what I was putting in here on the left side of the planet. The moment you basically lose your body to the ocean, your soul will travel just out of the map. And literally, it's in the very deep sense of meaning what I mean here, because what you see here in the very blue on the behind, and also these little blue particles here, and there's also a little moon, and this is copper GANs in a glass bottle. So I could see like a universe in that GANs situation. And now it is part in this conscious map here. And this is what we already know together. At least we have some sense of understanding. So if we see ourselves sooner or later as the soul, isolated or expelled from physicality, can we remain here? What holds us here on the planet? Who can still see us? Can people see us? What do we experience in that moment? So are we still confident that we can go back to the cycle here in the state of the soul? Or will we basically be pulled? Now here, this looks more like a conscious start into the stars. But in case of magnetical and gravitational forces, the smaller will go to the bigger. So remember the water droplet that goes through the soil, through the trees, through the air, into the cloud, and then it falls back down. Imagine yourself here going back to the cloud. And in the cloud, there is no individuality. There is no sense of ego perspective anymore. So the same moment we have when we basically merge into a cloud system as a water particle, this is what happens if we basically jump into the big ocean, or if we get planked and thrown down into the big ocean. We can't resist we have to become part of the bigger field in a very material state. So either we know how to navigate the water and therefore know your body, and therefore being in that state where you basically know that it's the perfect or the right state for you. This insight is something that you can just give or see or discover in yourself. Have you caught yourself maybe in a certain movie that you get very emotional, that you start to cry? It barely happens with men, of course, but it happened to me also like twice. And I don't want to go too deep into that, but what I mean is that we basically can perceive or we connect through our senses some way or another to the emotion. So the more you see, the more you can basically connect or disconnect yourself from. And what I meant here, it's going to the stars means also going into a very small way of existence, if you will. So if either you go big or you go home, and home is basically very small. And yet, if you have a very small home, you will be mobile and basically you can camp wherever you go in the universe. But where we come from, we need a big airship or whatever, a big truck with food, water, and everything. So we have a different conception of how we can sustain ourselves. The water is, in so many ways, energy in motion or just emotion. And so if we have a body that is basically energy in motion, it shows us deliberately how the physicality moves or how it can do. But this is just a way of how to look at it. Okay, so this is, I think, enough for the moment in the mental realm. I would like to go more to the side of a solution. And as we started last week, and we can count on the support of the animal kingdom on this map. And therefore, imagine now you are just seconds after you jumped into the water or you get forced into the water. You can barely free yourself, but you can manage. And so you can swim, and there is time from that moment on where you still live. Then remember that there are animals in the water too. And so you don't look for the next shark, of course, but you remember that there is communication in the water too. Imagine this communication works the same way as it works on land. It is through the water or in the water. And literally, there is no much difference between the environment of you and you in the big ocean. You are one ocean in the ocean, or just one drop in the ocean. So why should we struggle or be stressed out of losing ourselves? If this could be a dream, how would we solve it there? Can't we just look through the eyes of an animal that is maybe supportive and might be just around, and have nothing else to do, because usually animals don't work in the very common way of thinking as man does. So the animal that is with us today, we met each other through sound. There was some sound that you were doing in the water when you landed, or maybe just after the landing, or through the swimming. And so then there's the whale coming and sharing a message with us. Whale of mighty oceans, you have seen it all. Secrets of the ages are heard within your call. Teach me how to hear your words and how to understand the very roots of history, of when our world began. Whale is the record keeper. Whale is very much like a swimming library. Whale carries the history of Mother Earth and is said to have been placed here by the ancients from the dog star Sirius. Biologists say that whale is a mammal and very possibly lived on land millions of years ago. In tribal legend, whales' move into the ocean happened when the earth shifted and Lemuria, the motherland, went below the waves. All of our petroglyphs speak of the motherland, Mu, and the disaster that brought the red race to North America from the west, beyond the great waters. The symbols in the petroglyphs speak of the rivers and mountains crossed by our ancestors when they sought solid ground as the water receded. Whale saw the events that led to the settling of Turtle Island, North America, and has kept the records and knowledge of the motherland alive. It is said that Mu will rise again, and when the fire comes from the sky and lands in another ocean on Mother Earth. The native medicine people are waiting for this event as the next sign of Earth changes. Earth's children will have to unite and honor always and all races in order to survive. Whale medicine people are coded in their DNA to understand that sound frequencies can bring up records in the memories of ancient knowledge. They are usually clairaudient or able to hear both very low and very high frequencies. They are usually also physically developed and fairly telepathic. Many times, however, they are not awakened to their gifts until it is time to use the stored records. Many whale medicine people are able to tap into the universal mind of Great Spirit and have no idea how or why they know what they know. Only later, when they receive confirmation, do they begin to understand how they know or why they received the impressions. Whale medicine teaches us to use the sounds and frequencies that balance our emotional bodies and heal our physical forms. To recall why the shaman's drum brings healing and peace is to align with whale's message. The drum is in the universal heartbeat and aligns all beings heart to heart. Before the advent of speech and the primordial language, hand signs were used, and many tribes were silent most of the time. The language that was understood was the sounds of great spirits, other creatures, the animals. So today, whale came to you, and you are being asked to tap into these records and to allow yourself to be sung to by and those who have the original language. We are the only creatures who do not have our own unique cry or call. Find yours. Allow your voice to use the sound to release tension or emotion. Whale signals a time of finding your origins, of seeing your overall destiny as a coded in your DNA, and of finding the sounds that will release those records. You may never be the same again. After all, you are the melody of the universe, and the harmony is the song of the other creatures. In using your voice to open your memory, you are expressing your uniqueness and your personal sound. As you open to this uniqueness, the animals that are here with you to share send their sounds and calls to you and through you. This will open your personal records so that you may further explore your soul's history and commune with Whale, who carries the history of us all. Now, the worst case scenario for a whale could happen if the whale gets beached. So if he's stranded, and this implies the contrary message of the whale. On some level, you might have forgotten that you hold all the answers you need to survive, to grow, and to claim the power of your chosen destiny. It may be that you are having to deal with a lot of chatter in your head and cannot get to your personal records. If so, you may need to use other sounds to enter the silence. The drum or rattle, the Indian flute, or the sounds of nature may help. The call of whale is the lullaby of the tides. Rock yourself gently and float into the world of the sea. Flow with the waters of time and collect your answers. They are the only truths that will lead to your personal pathway of knowing. The contrary whale is saying that you must desire to know. You must seek the whale song within you. In hearing whale's call, you will connect to the ancients on a cellular level. And then you relax into the flow of the song's rhythm, and you will begin to open your unique library of records. It may not come to all at once. It may take practice. But if you hold the desire to know close to your heart, it will be whale's gift to you. Look to the great star nation and send gratitude to Sirius for the song of whale. So we find ourselves right next to one. Maybe there are more than one, maybe two or even 3, 10, 20. But again, try to imagine now the situation. You are in the water. You just had the meet and greet with the whale. He's floating next to you. And now what would happen if there would be 20 more coming? Do you think that's enough land for you to go to the shore very fast? Or are they just coming to say goodbye because you can't make it on your own anyways, and they have other business to do? I think you can read between the lines and you can hear in the words of the whale that the perspective given is much more in a deeper way of understanding. So what if the water is a way of how you can communicate without border or far further than you have imagined so far? Would you allow yourself to become a whale in this sense? To borrow his senses, his insights, his understanding as the swimming library? Can you see that the ship, maybe it was a pirate ship that you just got thrown out of, was not at a single part of it was as pleasureful as the whole whale, the stories he has to tell, to share with you. So if we allow us to connect to the environment, be it in the ocean, be it on land, be it in the air, or somewhere, whenever in space, it is you that has to basically make your home. And home is where the heart is, as we say. So where do you basically make yourself or take yourself a heart to be here and now, to put yourself on the map, literally speaking? Maybe sound can still give you some pleasure in the last remaining moments before you drown basically in the ocean. This might be a bit heavy today, and yet heavy is just, it's not endless. Heavy has an end. And when we come to this end of the heavy state, we have to start, we basically, there's no other way of experiencing more of the lightness. Do you know that there are children that are being born, and if they are, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, they start to tell their parents how they died last time? So is it then just a question of impatience when you basically are about to drown in the ocean and basically start the game anew on the next day? What we often forgot, or what we forget, is that in this setting of that sandbox, be it the whole cosmos or just a little garden with some plants and animals, it's all made up for us. It's not here to basically be part as a fighter. It is here to play with. So if we have a playful approach to life, as we can remember, hopefully most of us had when we were younger, if we were a child, we can basically see again the beauty that was already there. So what have we been putting ourselves on a certain track to whatever go discovery make? So I find myself literally wanting and seeing myself somewhere out in space, but far, far from home, far from the planet. Is it an escape for you to basically leave this place here because it is not what you thought it would be? Or did you just look at it a different way as other people could? Was it you that did the judgment, or did you judge just yourself and not anyone else was judging you? When you agreed that you basically earned this death penalty, it was you agreeing to it. There's a little side note to the situation when we got into the water. You know, there is a story of, especially pirates, or depending on how severe your doings were in the past, there was a certain way of, how you call it, to make it a bit more heavy. So you can imagine that there are good days and bad days on the ship. There are dry days, hot days. And so there were stories that some captains or crews were having fun with basically putting the death penalty people just in the sun for a certain time, that they get very dry. So after they get very hot, they were thrown into the water. I'm not sure, going into detail here what's the benefit or what's the side effects of that, but you can imagine yourself. And yet I would like to go into this experience just for a little bit, if you feel comfortable to allow yourself to do so. And now we go back into your apartment or into your house. So the situation from being cooked in the sun and basically being thrown into the cold water that is also salty, we can simulate that at home. So now I just want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. It's just taking a shower and you accidentally go from very hot to very cold. This is all the setting. How you get into this accident, just make sure, in case you have short transformation in an emotional state, that means just make sure that you could hold yourself, or that you sit, so that you don't hurt yourself in case you just fade in the state of confrontation when you have this emotional state. So this emotional state is basically your outer rim, or your energetic border in the matter state. And when you push a bit through the temperature, basically through the change, you change also. You have to see that as a radio tower. So the radio tower is, in one way, it's reduced in sending out, and so basically to make it transmit the message further away, you need to free it from what holds the transmission. We find ourselves that we have the sky painted in those white lines. Looks like Picasso is going to the sky to paint some days. And now imagine if what is going on. Can you see that something is transmitting through the air to you, to me, to all of us every day? And so what happens if you disturb the message in the air, basically when you put something in there? And in the same regard, if it happens that you would have more than necessary on your hips when you get thrown into the water, maybe that makes it even more heavy. How far would you go if you would say, okay, I allow myself now to leave this place? Who and what and how would I let go of it? So the situation makes it very clear. In the ocean, it's very easy there, because there is not much more, or not many options to get out of there. But right now, consider the same situation. How much connection, how much attachment emotionally, mentally, how many behaviors you love to do during the day. You might repeat it day by day. As far as we must have understood by today or by now, through all the over 400 teachings of Mr. Kesh, change means if you give more, you receive more. If you let go more, you get more. So this situation where we basically die in the water for today is trying to show us how or what we can basically reflect after that situation when we were basically part of the water. After we have let go and we know that basically it is done, we clearly see the connections, the strings, how we dear hold to. So who now is in charge? Who is in control? Who is the captain of the ship? And who gets thrown over the board? If it's the ship, you as the captain of the body, driving around on the land, do you get distracted from the trains in your head, from stuff that you have seen or heard that were not your creation? So you definitely have like a supply connection to those things. The train must come loaded to you. And the more we repeat that scenario, the more basically we get comfortable to it. So how can we get comfortable either in that situation in the deep ocean or in deep space or in any situation on the planet? Now, this is not the end of the game, but for today, it is the experience that ends through your ending. So you have seen now the scenario in this part of the story so far. You have to pick a perspective. Do you leave the ship through the eyes of yourself? Or do you take another perspective? That's the third person view, how it's called. So either you look just a little bit behind the shoulder, over the shoulder, basically you follow yourself. If you put now that perspective on top of your head or somewhere above you, we might come across the higher self that you might have come across. And yet there are other ways of playing games or the game. So basically when we imagine the situation of the eagle again, so he can have a strategic view of what's going on. He can pull the strings from a bigger perspective. So from the top, he can basically manage to see how things are working together and how it's all connected. So the eagle, the spirit or the soul, it's not only in the eagle. We are all in these ways very exactly the same eagles. So if you want to know again what you might have missed, you can go back to the teaching from last Monday with the message of the ego. Or if you already know your position and you can allow and accept the situation that is just a short playthrough today in that area that we have discovered, maybe you can come back in the night through the dream. And in the very far of the galaxy, you can see maybe you are building somewhere something out of yourself, of how you understood the creation that you are part of, as a drop or as an ocean. I would like to go a bit more into the water, but this is totally harmless. It's about the wave. We will go soon into more practical ways of experiencing. This is a very easy example of how a wave could be seen, or how many different perceptions there are to more like the same. So put some glasses on to watch this video now and try to see change. Change in many ways, but change in all ways the same as change. It's nothing remains the same for a certain time, but all is the same. And it almost looks like there is joy in some movements, or more excitement, or more slow or heavier movement in others. And maybe you can remain calm in the water, or maybe you can remember yourself how it was when you were a child, because then it was very similar. You were basically getting into an ocean of life every day a little bit more, and you have no idea what it's all about, what's to do, and so on. Thinking is not an issue there. Thinking is just something that might happen. But it's more on the feeling, on how you basically can go through the experience without judgment. There is that story of, I don't recall, maybe it's the Little Prince, of a small boy that gets swallowed up by a whale, and then it's getting thrown out again at the beach. So maybe this is the most beautiful way of seeing things as a team. So why I'm showing you the waves, why I told you the story of the Little Prince. You remember in the story of the whale, imagine now you having the heartbeat of the child of you back then, and that heartbeat connects to the way of waves go, and that's how you basically reach the whale. So no words, but it's a beat. Again, we talk about music, rhythm, change, waves, sound. And yet to someone who doesn't or is not able to hear anymore, or maybe, you just have a different spectrum of hearing, everything is just silent to you. And yet the change remains. So in the water, when you basically took the shower from the hot to the cold, and on the other day when you basically dive a little bit and you hold the air below the water, just to remember again that short period of time when we basically were thrown into the water altogether because they thought we were criminals or whatever. We lost it and we found it again. And this is here in so many ways lines, hard for them to lie, much easier if there would be words. Maybe there's music to see in the world, how you can understand the other. You maybe have your own sound, as the whale told you. Not telling you you have to be a 5-year-old child again. But maybe there was something right, maybe something already in tune. There was no need for so much thinking. So that train track and everything in that head of ours, in that brain, we built it up. Can we just throw it into the ocean and leave it behind us? We know that these mental train wagons, they are coming back again and again. They're not disappearing by themselves. So at one day, I would like you to, whoever or whatever map or picture you made of yourself, I would like to fall it apart as here in the waves. So the created gets unbuilt or just a bit tight, a bit loosen, to then come together again. But today is very much dominated by control and fear. Our lives are very similar in so many ways. So fear is the stability that is basically the death of the movement. And therefore, it's not what life is basically is. It's just part as well as the movement. And that there are so many restrictions of movement, even of thinking and speaking. You have to make your own world again. I know you can. Which line you pick, it's up to you. But we have all the same building blocks. the deeper we understand ourselves, and we can actually inspire each other. So we breathe the same. This can be the soil of a future that benefits the next generations in a good, in a peaceful, in a healthy way. So we need to let go from the structure that we hold dear to ourselves, but we should not lose the trust and the knowledge that we have in the structure. So can you recycle yourself? Can you go back to the cycle at will? This is in very short or few words, the message of Mr. Kesh that I heard. So imagine it's all about music, and on a different planet or a different star system, there is just another music that you haven't heard before. Can you dance to it? Because everybody dances to it there. Or would you resist? Would you be a special guest, a VIP? Or can you just blend in? And so what if I tell you that if the world outside is a reflection of us, this might something not be new to you, but what if we start to basically apply that knowledge? Wouldn't that mean that we literally are capable of changing us, them, the world all together? I would suggest that we find our tone first, and then we see what music we play, and if we still fit into the environment. So if the world outside is a reflection, then there will be also a reflection of you in the inner world or in the inside. Can you unstructure that gravitated too much heaviness into your body? Can you let that go? Can you shine it out through giving? Therefore, letting go is your wish. Can you lose it for a certain moment and trust that it gets rearranged in a better way again? Now, I'm not going to train you to survive the deep ocean, but maybe I am. I have no clue sometimes what I'm doing. So we will talk about the breathing in the next session on next Monday. Because the breathing, for those who are already familiar, would be something helpful in the situation in the deep ocean. So we simulate the situation where there is too much water and we are in luck or in control. So basically we can hold ourselves below water, underwater surface, or we basically don't go into the water and we just hold the air in our system on land. Either way, just for giving you a perspective, there are people that can dive very deep into the ocean, about, I don't know, 7 minutes, something like that, without any tools or supports. Something like deep diving, fishing, or whatever. It's just incredible. It's like 7 minutes, and the pressure is much different the deeper you go into the ocean. So that pressure that basically gets to your physicality is because of there is more than you basically can hold of yourself. And now, what is it that you can give? Is it something that you can share, or that's something that you just want to get rid of? Would you come back exactly the same, or would you do some adjustments? Nevertheless, when we remember just being a kid, a child, 5, 6, 7 years, what was so bad by doing it like a kid back then? And if we are today in a position of a parent, if we are a father or a mother to children or a child, do we treat them exactly like we have been treated? Or do we today allow them what has not been allowed to us? It's so important to understand that those deep in scriptures in stone, if we will, those things that happened to us, to all of us in one way or another, it's like a border stone of emotions. That's how far it went, in a good or in a bad way. So usually we try just to avoid that situation again, and we adjust ourselves depending on the feedback we get as a child. And therefore we corrupt ourselves slowly but steadily. And by the years of, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, everything goes right. That home place you have with you, with inside of you, got just too small. We need a big house, 2 cars, a ship, holidays, everything. And when we focus on just what we can see, then there is the feeling again on the second or third place. So we literally build ourselves out of ourselves. It's like we build a prison, we put ourselves in it. But we think we build it for someone else. And so now you know that the matter is part of the air, and it's called GANs. A very, very tiny way of experiencing that, what we call matter. I think it would be very hard if a gold GANs is hitting us like a meteorite on the shoulder or somewhere on the back. We wouldn't notice. We would just notice when it's big enough that it can feed our bank account or that it can be seen by someone else. But through the connection that we all share, and that is in the water situation, the first time maybe the issue, that you need some way of replenishing your air, at least as long as you want to stay in that suit of the body. So I want to basically swim with you in this ocean. And then everyone is free to go, literally. And I would like to see if we can find each other somewhere on the map again in the weeks to come. Okay, I would just like to have a little short break. Is there something unclear, or is there a question? I would just give or take 2 minutes and be right back. 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back now. Did anything appear to any one of you, or should I continue?
Andreas, is it possible that we have the recording of the first lesson last Monday?
Yes, I'm still a little bit behind with that. Some sound issues, but I will let you know.
Okay.
At least by the end of this week, it will be done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, maybe there is something we can do next that is a bit more of an easy way of seeing things. Okay. Usually we have a question, we have an answer. Can also be a train here. Huh? Train can come as an answer or as a question. What do they have both in common? What would you, or how would you feel if I draw this? So this is now one image, not two symbols. Can we see that there is at least call it particle. Then we have a wave. Well, this is actually no wave. This is more like, so let's maybe let's do it like this. We have a wave that looks like a ray or like a beam. What I want to share with you here is on this black background, the situation that the final answer that will be given through you to you in the situation where we are in the deep ocean, you will actually just know then. The situation today or the time to come, when you're not really facing it in the literal sense, you will not really or never really know what you would have done or how it went. And yet we are talking very often about stars or the sun. And then we have like gravity, or if this is a big picture, is a black hole. So we have a giving, and we have a taking or receiving. So can we basically merge the good and the bad together? To be in that state down here, when we know that we are capable as well of the answer, as well able to raise a question. If we draw it again, would you, if you have the meaning of love to you, would you put it on the left side or on the right side? So is love the answer or is love the question? Let's put it over here for once. So what would be the opposite of love? I usually do this example to visualize that a bit in an easier way. So imagine you're somewhere in a jungle, somewhere South America maybe. You have no light, you have no knife, you have nothing, maybe barely clothes. And so you're basically going through the jungle. Can you see how you would behave, how you would feel? How the darkness is literally loaded with semantics and possible outcomes because of your existing so far. Again, when you have a different heartbeat in that situation, it might get a different outcome, again, as in the ocean. But to make it a bit easier, so we put fear on the other side. So it's always like a fight between the question and the answer. Now, this might look a bit crazy for you, but just give me a second to try to catch up. So in the moment when we try to see what is equal or what is the same in both, we merge them into one here. And then we have two differences. It's one of this, like the snake here, and then we have this stick here. So to make it more abstract, there is a particle, and say there is something like a line. So now, which is life and which is death? You know, there is this famous beep, beep, beep in the movies. So this is life, a drop, and the ocean is death. Or is that still just half of the truth? If it could be, again, in a circular shape or as a cycle, then we just know that these twos are included in that cycle. But it also means that it comes again and again. And if you contain all the contradictions and the contraries inside of you, just the good and the bad, the white and the black, then you can see that those rings that are often drawn, the black here doesn't mean empty, it's just not yellow. So what means yellow is just not black. And when you know a little bit from the photography, so the contrast between black and white is what makes the picture. Let me see if I can show you that a bit more clear. So today, all in blue, because we're in the middle of the ocean. I try to show you what I mean. So that would be gray. The more contrast you get, the more you go into another color. If you do this with black and white, one is here on the is very white, and on the other one, 100% contrast would mean, as this symbol usually is drawn like this. One is dark and one is white. Or hello duality, give and take, receive and share. So where do we start with the life experience when we talk about the center of you or the origin? If you are part of the cosmos, you are soul carrier, and that light emanates through you. through all the ways of layers or of ways of dimensions you can have yourself as an experience. So the giving and the taking are basically part of what you need to play in the sandbox. Otherwise, you could just look and see the other play in the sandbox. So in the moment where we have a black hole here, the duality of time, space is also one. Or if we know that everything falls into here like gravitation does, it will be hard to differentiate what is space and what is time if past, future, all those are together in this. So now we throw again a question mark and the exclamation mark into it. And we know that in the middle of this, neither yesterday nor tomorrow, but actually always in the now, there is that connection to the question and the answer. It's always available when you can get into that spot where there is no time and no space for you. So we know we have a body, but that part that has that body is, because of the contrast, totally the opposite. So it's not matter. And therefore, because it is not matter, it never was built, it can't be unbuilt. But the stuff in the sandbox or the body that you are building and unbuilding all the time, that's the sandbox. And that sandbox plays in a bigger sandbox. That also plays in a bigger sandbox. So when we talk about the center, either I have to switch this now here to white. So again, we have the two. So everything falls in here and everything here falls out here. So if we connect them together, we get that tube. And the experience is going through that tunnel. And either way you look at, if you look from the matter state, you will see more of a light here. And if you look from the light into here, you will look more of a dark. So make those together. something like this, maybe gray. I mean, literally gray, the fusion of the black and the white. But that is actually the third state when you are in the merging already. The good news is in the first state, when we come all from the soul. The second state, the emotion, is also not matter, but it's the connection. So the light in you connects through the emotion to the physical structure. And so maybe now you see that in so many ways the same. So this is like a vibration or a sound, but as a wave in a circular, like you would drop a drop of water into a pond. The rays here, they go either left or right. But they're also just a transitory state. So we literally have a point and a ray or a particle that travels as such in the time or in the perspective of an observation where we basically can see that it leaves a trace. Okay, sorry, Alenka, what do you say? The gray letters are not legible?
They are not, it's not possible to read them.
I used purple and black and just a little bit gray over here.
I see there are some letters, but I cannot read them.
Let me see. Is now better?
Let me see. No, not yet.
There's no gray letters.
No, what is that?
It's just a drawing.
No, I can see over the drawing, there are some letters above the drawing. I cannot see
You mean over
the
here? You
picture
mean
now.
over here? Over here?
Yes, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's just from the tablet. It's the date and time.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to
Thank
worry
you.
about.
Sorry.
Okay, so if we have the center here, does it really travel? And does it leave Does it leave a black hole behind when the center goes? So that what was in the center here is now going as a wave over here. It's going out. And then it gathers and turns the movement either in this direction or this one. If you haven't seen the double slit experiment yet, this is something definitely we have to consider in this. So it means if you shoot light, or if there is light traveling, and then you have, so this is light coming. We'll make it a bit more. Not sure if you are familiar with this experiment, but they were doing like this. So this is light coming from here, going to there. So now they were, they wanted to see what light does, how it goes. Because light can go this way or that way. Either way, they will come together as one sooner or later. There will be some other waves coming here, but they will collapse again as one. So what they found out is, as long as the observer or someone is watching this experiment, light can go either here or here, but you can't predict. So it seems like the consciousness is in the light, or the light is the consciousness. So light is playing hide and seek with us when we want to see if it goes through the first or through the second door. I'm not a physicist. Double slit experiment. So if light has a choice, maybe it can copy itself. So it remains here, but it can be also here at the same time, or here, or here. And then we're somewhere where the electrons, there are these, these famous pictures of something going around the center. And so now we are again, with the movement. If someone or something passes you relatively fast, I mean, if it goes fast by you, it will be just a short notice. If you watch it from the beginning to the end, the same scene will be much longer. So, but if both of those has the particle as the thing that is going on, this can go so fast that it builds like a barrier as a ring. Or if you want to take a chakra as here to make you a better picture. So you have a center that pulls together, and then you have the same that gives, but as one. So, and through this exchange, basically, that you are doing inside of you and then with the outside, this is how you are connected in the situation here. So when you take a shower, you definitely will go here. And depending on you, you might go in this direction. And you will feel after the shower definitely a change here. I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but Kesh said to the question of someone, because this showering scene, this is not my invention, this is, there are many people basically doing stuff like that, but someone asked about the Dutch guy, the Wim Hof, and Kesh answered that now we know how we transmute. And I remember that well, that word very well, because we will soon see or maybe a bit later, that transmutation is also, there is an animal behind that. So if we can transmute to basically taking cold showers or switching between cold and warm or hot and cold, we are again here in this relation of giving and receiving, of plus minus, black, white, good and ugly. But you are always here. You are always here. You're always here. So how can you lead your environment, your body? Can you hit the tones? Can you make your system jump of joy or jump for joy? Because it feels so good to be you, or living in that home. Maybe we can put it one step more easy. So we have the dot or the point, and now you choose, it goes this direction or the other direction around. You couldn't say which is which when this particle here goes so fast around that it looks here like dense or like a laser. You imagine yourself that there is like a halo, or like, you know, the aura that is basically a spherical magnetical expression of you. So basically you have many layers of these through your system, and that center here is the same like this one, but they move differently, but in relation to each other they are dancing. So the moment you feel yourself truly and honesty, that's the moment when you are in peace, when there is nothing scratching, urging, or itching you. In no department of you and your existence. And what goes around comes around, in the very meaning of this here. And that's again the situation when you basically stand in front of the mirror. So now imagine yourself that the next layer here and the over next layer here, these are all like two-way mirrors. They basically reflect what is inside, but they also shine through and create the next layer maybe. try to just for once draw a picture where your soul expands through shining, or what we know as giving, but now you just give, not in the material way of viewing things, but you're just sending it out, and you don't have to think about it. If you are in the state where you like yourself the most, when you're not hurting, of course, the environment, then you will be basically in harmony with life. And now when we just reflect for one more second, what does it mean if it is a reflection? I was never a big fan of the insurance business, but you know, there is some strange situation that it very looks to me that, you know, creation itself did also some sort of life insurance. So if all of those rings are basically a reflection of that is given from the inside out, I like to draw it like this. So they go straight out or somehow out, and then they get into a circular flow, either left or right turn. So then you can have here like a right turn, a left turn, a right turn, a left turn. In between those polarities of black and white or nothing and everything, you have the full potential of whatever you would like to make out of yourself. So if matter is also here a mirror, but it's not the original one of you, it basically means it's like a fail-safe system. So whatever happened here, here, and here, the center will be untouched, because between the center and the next environment, here is total difference. And this is not as much more complicated as we already know. Either you have magnetical or you have gravitational. So if we take black for matter or gravitational, that's what I mean. You have here gravitational, then you have magnetical here. Again, a reflection of the same here, and then you have magnetical again. And of course, there are many ways between, but it needs to be understood that the creation is by itself not as complex, as complicated. You know, life is very meant to be easy. Maybe not even easy, but if you think about that one bee that is too big to fly, but it still flies. So okay, maybe life just supports also, you know, those that you know want to achieve the impossible. And so maybe that's why we gathered all here together to get a different point of view, to understand what we already know, or might just have jumped into the water of the knowledge. And we literally are jumping in ourselves in the Mozhan training here. So what often will occur, so we were drawing these opposites. We just go random now, like this, something like that. So when we have these polarities, this is again the potential that we might be caught in. But I would like to close with a short or a little exercise. I'm not sure if we did it last week again, but it was not here. I'm pretty sure. So we try to literally go and experiencing now this polarity without us having to do anything wrong or right. We just have to observe what is. So this is your brain. This is your brain. And somehow, because crossed is better than uncrossed, this is the right hand and this is the left hand. So your hands basically more or less like this. Those are extensions of your brain, of your two brain sides. So for those who haven't done that yet, what our body carries or what we are carrier of is here a reflection in matter. So if we have these on both sides, if we have access to this and to this, to this and to this, to that and to this, can we make the black hole? Or can we make the star? Here. So try to sit, stand or lay if you can in a comfortable situation so that your circulation can go freely. And now we're going to, I'm not sure if you can hear this, rub your hands together, just gently, you don't need to do too much. You can do this also without the rubbing. Now press the hands a little bit or maybe clap once or twice. The more they are dancing in your hands, the more you become aware of. That's the reason why we just try to motivate them or just play the music a bit in the fingers. Okay, so now place your hands out of each other. So try to find a spot, maybe like 3 centimeters, maybe like 6 to begin with. Try not to wander with your eyes or with your senses, but just try to literally put your consciousness into your hand. Now, just for a short notice, when you basically do this display, the situation that you basically get with the breathing is keeping you a little bit away or distracted from focusing on between the what's going on between your hands. So that's why we are going to focus at least from next day on, next Monday on why the breathing is so important, or how we can basically go closer with the saturation of your body with oxygen. So in the state that you have a saturated body with oxygen, you have enough energy, so you don't really need to breathe for a longer time. Again, this is just entry level. There are people diving 7 minutes straight into deep waters without breathing tools, or breathing aid. So yet, try to basically shut down everything that is not between your hands. And so if you have thoughts, try to basically imagine, or maybe if you try to take the viewpoint of the right hand and watch the left hand, or vice versa. If you want to see, and otherwise you just close the eyes. And I think you all should feel it by now that something is going on and we are not doing anything. So what I want to show you with this, there is always something going on, even you're not doing anything or that much. And that is going on is definitely not in a matter of things. So there is no food, there is no fire, there is no cell phone that might radiate out, but there is something, and you can find out now through your observations, through your experience, how you would name it, or if you can be so free and not naming it. So it could be many things, but just one. If you expand the hands, if you let that field expand itself, try literally to let the field do its work, and your body is literally just the instrument that your hands can go wider and closer, but you let yourself be guided through the pull and the release of what you basically observe and experience between or amidst the environment of yourself. Maybe you can feel some warmth coming. Maybe the feel gets stronger. So when you have those two forces at your hands, what can you really do? What can you be, or how can you be? So when next time ask you someone, how are you? Then you know that you are, that you are, or that I am, that I am. So we are reflections of ourselves within and around. And it's really up to you in a total sense of meaning. So what you put in front of that mirror is what you will get. And everything from childhood and so on, even further down the time travel books, this is just your storyline so far. And maybe it's time now for us to literally become aware of what's going on. So when we have the mirror, there are three ways to look at it: through your soul, through your emotion, or through matter. And then are infinite or many other ways to look at it. I'm not sure if I can do this in a fair scale here, but that would be a whale, a small one. So if you could basically watch through the eyes of a whale, it would mean that you see in here the picture of the whale in that mirror. And therefore, this is another reflection back to the whale than to a human. But it's the same mirror, it's the same soul. I mean, like in essence. So same players, same environment, same tools, same connection. So everything that held you back basically to not speak to the whales. Okay, I have to give in. I mean, who of us is swimming with whales regularly? This is hopefully able for some people, but at least we don't have sea access here in middle of Europe, so it's a long way to go for that. But take this whale here for a fox or a dog. Can be also plant or just another human. So what they see in you might not be the same as you see in yourself. And so because this is part of the message of the whale, okay, now I just lost it. Or maybe is it already time? It's 10 to 9. Yeah, time is running very fast. Is there anything that needs to be cleared out in the moment? In 10 minutes, I think the Spanish teaching is starting, and I don't want to hold anyone off to go there. And so I will be there next Monday. We will see maybe each other already tomorrow in the One Planet One race at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And yeah, genau. Now I remember. That's a little experiment that you can just explore a bit more on you. So whatever is that you in the center, imagine the first circle around is your body. So now you put some sound to it. And you have heard yourself in many different ways in your life. So you know different sound spectrums or different tones. And I would like to show you here is that whatever sound that comes out literally from your throat, you can feel it in your body first before someone else can hear it. Sound is the fastest way of communication. So, but before you reach an ear of someone else or they reach yours, that irritation or that emotion that comes from your center, that is going either to pet you, if this is your skin, or it makes you an earthquake. So your system feels what you put into the mirror. So you have the soul and the matter is already the reflection. So this is the car. This is the wheel. And here we have the driver. So be aware what you basically share with people if it's not in a positive way of feeling, because you literally hurt yourself if you're not aware of what you're basically playing at your system. So the next entity or the next human you maybe would like to say not so beautiful words. Sound has to travel further, but the first will be always you. So it really depends what you give out. It's better to remain silent in this way. You can actually prove this. The more beautiful things you say, maybe even you talk to your shower. I literally mean you talk to the water that drops on you. Maybe you just say, thank you. What a beautiful shower today. Open your perception. And the more you become aware of the reflections in your life of you and of the others, the much more aware you become to your craft. And so I would like to finish for today. I hope not many got lost on the trail or on the track. We definitely going to catch you up again on next Monday. And I appreciate for joining tonight. And thank you very much for listening and being with us all here and now. Thank you.
Thank you also. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Thank you, Andrea.
Dame mi celular, po. Cuarto.
Thank you.
Danke, Andreas.
Dankeschön.
Bitte gern geschehen. Alles recht.